The stories aren't just told, they're felt. I'm your host, Saima, and today's guest is Douglas Robbins, a multifaceted author, podcaster, and soulful observer of the human journey. Through his books, The Douglas Robbins Show, and years of exploring life's deeper questions, Douglas invites us into a world where healing meets honesty and storytelling becomes a spiritual act. From the Catskill Mountains to the pages of his books, Douglas has dedicated his life to helping others embrace their whole self emotionally, spiritually, and creatively. Douglas, welcome to the show.
Saima, so nice to be with you.
Oh, same here. So let's start with your journey started with a single poem in high school. So can you take us back to that moment and how it opened the door to self-expression and healing?
Yeah, it that's where it really started, or that's what I became aware of. But even when I was younger, I had all these ideas coming to me, if you will, about living and how we could, have a different society and different, ways of being. But um, fast forward, yeah, till I'm in my high school, and I was not much of a student. I never wanted to be in school. Um, didn't always trust the school or what they were pushing. It was a big school, several thousand students. Um, and, you often get lost in the shuffle, right? You're just trying to figure it out and just kind of often, as a teen, just kind of going through the motions. And the teacher asked us to write a poem. And I wrote this poem, and it was a little funny, a little snarky, but I found a great power in it because my father, who didn't necessarily give me a lot of support, if you will, I had read the poem to him, and he thought it was pretty entertaining and funny, and sort of got a attaboy out of him, which was unusual. And then in the class, I read it, and the teacher thought it was funny. Several other students thought it was funny. So there was something revealing that the world didn't reveal in itself. School didn't reveal this. School was often regurgitate, learn this, regurgitate, want the same things, kind of a homogeneity as far as we're all supposed to learn the same things and sort of in a way become the same things. But in this little poem, a great power was found in words, in that words had power and that I had this power. Now, it didn't resonate that deeply with me other than, there's something to this, and this is mine.
Mm-hmm. So did that moment, feel like permission to express emotions you hadn't voiced before?
Yeah, it was this resonation, this feeling deep within that there was more to the picture than we were being told about life and what life could be. And there was this deeper, like I said, a resonance of, I connected to something much broader than school or society, much broader than myself. And that is the divine or nature or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. And that spark, that one yes from a mentor can change everything, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Now, your writing spans like sci-fi to romance, yet your themes are always, they come back to personal growth. So can you share that? Why do you think storytelling is such a powerful vessel for healing emotional trauma?
Everything is a story, right? Every emotion we have is a story. Every idea we tell ourselves is a story. Our minds never stop creating stories. Um, Story about this call we're going to have, a story about after this call. The whole day our mind is creating stories. And so every emotion has a story. Every thought has a story. And so with my science fiction or fantasy book, and there'll be a follow up, there'll be a couple more in the series, but it was really about getting to that deeper self. So we're often conflicted. We often feel dualistic that we're this other self, and yet we struggle with sort of day-to-day questions and confusions and emotions and beliefs and everything else. But there's that other part of us always calling, sort of like a beacon to come home. And that's kind of what the sci-fi fantasy narracon, the Cloak deception is about, is sort of that getting past that conflicted mind to be that. He's not a superhero exactly, but he has powers from another world.
So, is there a character or story that you have written that mirrors your own journey most closely?
Yes, yes, yes. And that is so my the last book I wrote was called Baseball Dreams and Bikers. And there are three stories in it, and they're all about the dreams that we all carry inside of us. And often we get off the path. We fall off the path. And we don't know we're falling off the path. We think, oh, that dream will always be there. I will always get there. It will happen inevitably. And truth be told, it doesn't happen inevitably unless you're working at it and staying on the path. Because, so for instance, in Baseball Dreams and Bikers, the main story, it's about a kid who's this incredible baseball player in high school, and his parents start struggling. His father loses his job. His parents separate, and the kid starts kind of going down the wrong path. And he starts getting into drugs a little bit and partying and kind of to ease the pain. And this is often why people start doing these things, to ease pain. But that doesn't solve anything. And so the story is really about like what happens if you fall off the path, but also equally what happens if you have a guide or someone in your life that is aware that you're falling off the path and simply won't allow that to happen. And it would be wonderful if we all had that. Life would be much easier and neater. But that's the sense of the story, is if you have this big dream, this path that you're on, and you don't realize you're falling off of it, and someone comes along because this other person had fallen off it himself.
Mm-hmm. That echo, Douglas, that we write the stories we need to read is incredibly moving, no?
Say that again?
Mm-hmm. That echo that we write the stories we need to read is incredibly moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, we all need, we all need love. We all need
Mm-hmm.
safety. And we all need that support that we're often not receiving because parents can only give so much, or society can only give so much. And so we're often kind of flailing about trying to find our way. And what if you had someone who had been there, done that, and can help you, and my goodness, shorten the curve and keep you focused on fulfillment and living a meaningful life? Because ultimately that's what we're all here to do, is connect and live a meaningful life.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've spoken about emotional trauma and, becoming spiritually attuned. So, can you share the connection between healing and heightened spiritual awareness in your view?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big question, Simon, because we're born these spiritual beings, and then we become emotional beings in physical form. And this is where we feel small, or we play small, or we have negative self-talk or bad beliefs, or low self-image, or any of these kind of things that get in our way. So it's a very strange design to me. You have this spiritual part, this broad self that's here to fulfill and bring gifts forward and connect to others who are also bringing gifts forward. But then you have emotions and emotional traumas that get in the way, right? It's like having your foot on the gas and the accelerator simultaneously. Well, it doesn't work very well, and you're kind of fighting yourself quite often. And that's the struggle to be human, right? You're trying to get somewhere else. You're sick and tired of the stuff you're constantly dealing with. Excuse me. So that's the struggle. And every time, though, that you take a piece or heal a piece of this struggle, this emotional duress. You take a piece back of this spiritual energy, and you broaden your consciousness, you broaden your awareness, and you become more of ultimately who you are capable of being. But if you don't deal with emotional issues, you're most likely never going to get wherever. You're never going to find that peace, because my goodness, we're all looking for peace. But that's really the battle. That's the journey. Is, we learn whatever stuff the first 10, 20 years of our lives, and the joke is the rest of your life you're dealing with healing it. So, but it's something we all need to be proactive about. And I will say this additionally, like, they say you are what you eat. Well, you are what you put in your mind also. You are what you intake. So if you're looking at a lot of social media and negative stuff and divisive stuff and things that make you feel small, it's not going to help you on your journey. We really need to continue putting good stuff into our thoughts, being around positive people, and taking care of ourselves as best we can.
Oh, that's noteworthy. So, do you believe that pain, when processed, becomes a breach deeper inside?
Yes, for sure. Without these challenges, we would really be pretty superficial beings. We learn through these challenges. Hopefully we get to the other side of these challenges, because that's where truth is found. And I think part of the journey here on planet Earth is growing, right? Is strengthening muscles, is learning, is healing, is developing. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, but it's, perhaps to go into the next life. But yeah, I mean, the pain is a great teacher, unfortunately, but pain is a great teacher. And it also teaches you great insight about not only yourself, but humanity and what others are going through. And compassion is a part of that. So if you've gone through something, you are most likely going to have compassion. And, for me, compassion is passion for community and passion for the collective, if you will. So much is gained through that suffering, even though we would much prefer not going through it.
Mm-hmm. And that truth, that our wounds can become wisdom is something listeners really need to hear today.
Yeah. Yeah, the wounds can stop us, obviously, because they project into our minds, right? Of this is what's going to happen if I put myself out there, for instance. Maybe I got hurt in love or something. And
Mm-hmm.
then, as though, don't do that. Don't love, because you can get hurt in love, right? What else can hurt you? Love hurts the deepest when you are rejected. But it's the only way to live, and it's hard. Sometimes our heart closes because of pain or trauma, and it's a natural defense mechanism. And that's real. These are things that we must love in ourselves and acknowledge in ourselves, not battle and fight, but love and acknowledge and say, yeah, I was hurt here, and maybe this wasn't the right person, or my parents couldn't give me whatever, or whatever it is, or this person was just, unhealthy or sick themselves. But ultimately, we must do our best, and it's not going to always happen. We stumble. We're human. Holding on to that love, that purpose, because if we close it, we're not hurting anyone but ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, through your podcast, you explore topics like relationships, choice, and authenticity, right? So, what recurring theme or realization, keeps resurfacing for you and your audience?
Simon, it's a curious thing, because it usually just comes back to a few things for me. And, it might look like we have 15 different type of topics, but it's usually a couple themes that are the undercurrent of everything. And mental health, for instance, we hear this term mental health a lot. And it's kind of generic sounding mental health. Yeah, okay, great, great. But mental health is really the indicator of everything in your life. You know, it's how you treat others, how you see yourself, how you see others, how you treat the planet, how you treat animals, how you treat the person in the parking lot. Like across the board, mental, if you're in a bad place, you're going to treat yourself poorly, you're going to treat others poorly, and so on and so forth. People will suffer because of all this. So mental health is this curious thing that like it affects everything. It's not like, oh, am I happy? That's not really what mental health is. Are you well is really what mental health is. And so that's probably a big theme because I think everything really stems from that, how we interact, how we treat the environment, laws, everything else comes from mental health. Are we greedy and selfish? Well, that's not mental. That's unhealthy. So I would say, self-expression is huge because that's what, writing is. And we are all here to express ourselves and bring, like I said earlier, gifts forward. That's the true part of what it is to be human. The mental health, environmental, anything that touches the human condition. It's important to bring forward because it's so easy to have superficial conversations. Hey, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Okay, there's nothing gained there. There's something gained when we're talking about truth and some deeper meanings and what's going on. And this is how we connect. This is how we care. But if there's just a wall up, there's nothing to share and there's nothing gained. And now you can't always have those conversations if you're at the supermarket or something. But ultimately, and this is the other thing, getting back to pain doesn't want to be exposed, right? Pain wants to remain hidden. Well, if you're having conversations, earnest conversations, that helps ease the pain, ease the burden, so you can keep moving forward. And we all need each other because we cannot do all this alone.
That completely makes sense. So, have any guests or stories ever shifted your perspective entirely?
Have I had any guests or shows? I mean, I've had experiences that have certainly opened my eyes to much broader perspective as far as spirit and flow and synchronicities. It's all energy, right? And we are energy. We have electromagnetic fields around us. The brain puts off an energy field, but the heart puts off one that's like 1,000 times that of the brain. And so here's my little joke, Saima. When we're stuck in our heads, we're playing small quite literally because our brains or minds do not have the electromagnetic fields that the hearts have. And the hearts can hold a lot more than the brain. The subconscious can hold a lot more than the brain. I'm going to tell you two people that I had on the show. Both had suffered from traumatic injuries. One gentleman had broken his back, and another woman had been in a traumatic car accident, a head-on collision early in the morning. And the gentleman who had broken his back had been told by the doctors, you are never going to walk again. Get used to this. This is your new life. You're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And he said, no, that is not going to be my future. And so he worked diligently and used his mind and visualized and used his heart and used his emotions and the energy to heal himself. And within, 6 months or a year, whatever it was, he was able to walk. He was able to get back to what he was doing. And he actually became a stuntman in Hollywood.
Oh,
So we are very powerful beings if we can focus, because the key is focus. You must focus, you must believe. And then the other woman I had mentioned, she had been in a traumatic car accident. And similarly, it changed her personality because she had some brain damage. The doctors, she couldn't sit in the light. She couldn't go outside because she could only be in sort of darkness or shade. Light really bothered her. her personality changed, that she was no longer kind of happy and bubbly. And the doctor said to her and her mother, she was mid-20s at that time, this is the new norm. You are not going to be normal ever again. You know, your career. She was a biologist at that time. And the doctor said, you're not going to change. This is it. You're not going to get any better here. And she was obviously very frustrated and angry. It was not her fault. And she started working on her mind, and starting, in a sense, like connecting the parts of her mind that had shut off. And now she's a speaker around the world. So, you know, the spirit is incredibly powerful. The emotions are the ones that often get in our way. You know, that's where ego is, and arrogance, and I'm better than you are, and you're better than me, and you know, all this constant battle of judgment, right? The spirit doesn't judge. The spirit accepts and loves and simply is. Whereas ego judges us constantly, criticizes, oh, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this and that. Or the opposite, oh, we're much better than this other person. I got to tell you a funny story. Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So I was hiking with my wife a few weeks ago out west in the desert of Sedona, Arizona. Beautiful area, red rock canyons, sandy soil, really lovely out there. Anyway, so we were coming down this kind of rocky hillside into the sandier area, and my wife slipped a little. She was, I think, behind me. And then my ego, being a jerk for that second, was like, I don't slip. And then a second later, I slipped.
Oh,
And so the ego, once again, is a liar. It doesn't know what it's talking about. It just builds itself up. It hides everything else. It never admits that it's wrong. And so we often have to override or try to ignore, which is not always easy because it's always yapping. But the quieter mind allows for that flow, that divine flow.
absolutely. And you know, Douglas, that evolution, that even as a host, you are still being transformed, is so real and relatable.
Yes. Yeah, it's us. And we certainly evolve, and you know, we keep going forward, and hopefully stay on the path, and hopefully be aware that this is our path. It's easy to say, I don't want this path, question the path. Absolutely. But this is still our path. I mean, I have my ego minds up and say, well, why do I have to be this? I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, this other guy. Like, well, that's nice, but it doesn't change anything. You know, your path and your journey and your compulsions are still not going to change because of ego. They are innate, and they are, in a sense, supernatural, and they are your gift, and we must honor them.
Mm-hmm. Douglas Robbins, you reminded us that healing doesn't always come with fanfare. It often arrives in a story, a sentence, a quiet moment of clarity. Through self expression and spiritual connection, we learn to rewrite our inner script. And for all our listeners, here's your spark. Start writing, start speaking, start healing. Your truth deserves its place on the page and in the world.